Hi everyone. We are back with another episode. As I said in our last Boba Fett review, we had been gone for a bit of a hiatus, but now we're doing 2 in a row. So
Happy New Year, everyone.
Yeah, Happy New Year. So today we have a bit of a special looking at shows that we watched in 2021. And yes, it is New Year's Day here in Australia. So it is already 2022. But we kind of ran out of time yesterday to record this. So we're doing it now. Slightly hungover, slightly tired.
Powerade just out of shot.
Yeah. So let's get started. So we're going to run through shows that we watched and run through them based on the streaming platform that we watch them on. These are Australian streaming services, obviously, because we're in Australia, so we're based off that. So obviously these are shows that have been released around the world, but they may not be on the same streaming platform for you. We're going to start off with looking at Disney Plus. I think that's probably the most universal that we've got on here, and we'll go on from there. So we're just going to run through the shows, talk about whether we enjoyed them, whether we didn't, and give our overall thoughts. So starting off with Disney Plus, WandaVision.
WandaVision. I quite liked it. It was a good first show to get from the Marvel Cinematic Universe of TV. I actually, as I think we said in our initial WandaVision reviews, I probably preferred the first few episodes a bit more because there was more mystery. They were more thematic. So we had the sitcom episodes from the 60s and 70s to start off with. But overall, yeah, quite liked it. Yeah. So would definitely recommend.
Yeah, I agree. I really enjoyed WandaVision. I liked the travel through the decades of television and how that changed every episode and, culminated in that actual Marvel plot. So it was actually a really enjoyable watch. I'm not sure if it's for everyone, but if you are a Marvel fan, you'll enjoy it. It's got some recurring characters from the films and things like that, as well as, a lead into future Marvel content. Okay, continuing on with Marvel, Loki.
Yeah. Loki I did like as well. And I think I liked it for a different reason to WandaVision. WandaVision I liked because I could watch that without really knowing too much of what was going on in the Marvel universe. Loki was definitely much more plot-driven in that sense. Mm-hmm. And therefore you did have to know a bit of what was going on. So it's probably not as engaging if you're completely fresh or unversed in the... Unversed? Is that the word?
No.
In the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But I still really liked it. Really good cast of characters and clearly a pretty good hook at the end of the season for a season 2 next year or the year after, whenever that's going to get released. So again, would probably recommend.
Yeah, Loki was another thumbs up for me. As someone who's not really an Avengers fan, I know I keep saying this, but I love all the Marvel shows. I fell in love with Loki through this series. It was great. It's a really good watch. It's enjoyable. It's nice and quick. So do recommend. Again, there was a lot of Marvel content this year. So the first things we're going through is all Marvel. So What If? So that was the animated show, which looked at the alternate storylines for some of the major films, TV shows, things like that. You watched this more than I did. I caught a few episodes here and there. So what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I liked the fact that they were very much, at least to start with, and that's probably a little bit of a spoiler. Sorry if we do verge into some spoilers here for shows you guys haven't watched, but that's sort of the nature of it. I did like that to start off with, they were very much one-off, sort of contained storylines, which made them quite interesting. As it went on, we got a bit more of a complex storyline, and I believe there's a season 2 coming, so that will be interesting to see what happens there. I think it sort of feeds into the same things as Loki in terms of the multiverse and all of those ultimate possibilities. So, I think it's an easy watch. So it's the sort of thing you can just put an episode on at a time and just enjoy it. You don't necessarily have to be in the roots and understand everything going on. They're pretty well set up to explain what's going on within the episodes. So yeah, quite liked it.
Yeah, the episodes that I caught, and I said it was only a few here and there, were actually enjoyable. And I did enjoy them posing the question of, what if Captain America was Captain Britain? No.
Yeah, Captain. What was it? I think it was Captain Britain. Yeah.
Yeah. And having Peggy as that again, great. Good. Recommend if you're a Marvel fan. You'll enjoy it. Last of our Marvel shows, that we're reviewing. I mean, I know.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, if we're talking all the Marvel shows that came out this year, probably the one that I didn't really enjoy at all was Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And I guess when I say I didn't really enjoy it, I just didn't find it engaging enough to continue with. It felt very like all the Netflix Marvel shows, like Daredevil, where they just felt very long, action, set piece oriented, which just, when there's not enough plot to engage me and keep me interested at the same time, I kind of switch off. So that was probably the one that I would say, skip it.
Yeah, I didn't watch that one at all. We did watch Hawkeye, though, over Christmas because that was the Marvel Christmas show. And I personally really enjoyed Hawkeye. I thought, again, not an Avengers fan, so I was a bit, I didn't really care to begin with. But I do think it was actually really heartwarming and lovely.
Yeah, I quite liked it. And it sort of runs counter to what I was saying about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because this was also quite action set piece focused, but I think there was a lot of really good humor in it. I thought Haley Steinfeld was really engaging, and I thought she was a really good addition to the cast, which therefore made it a bit of an easier watch in that sense. Only 6 episodes as well, so a very small self-contained story. Well, I say self-contained, but there were a lot of elements that then fed into the broader storyline as well. So, for example, I would recommend watching Black Widow before watching this as well. But yeah, recommend.
Yes, yeah, that's definitely, you have to watch these things in a certain order, otherwise you're going to get a bit confused with characters that jump in and things like that. Okay, what else? So we're still on Disney Plus. We'll move into Star Wars. Now, I don't think we're going to mention Boba Fett because we're doing a separate review for that, so please go check that out if you haven't already. But the other Star Wars series that popped up on Disney Plus again, also not The Mandalorian because we did that separately as well. But Bad Batch.
Yeah, and technically there were two Star Wars shows that came out this year. So Bad Batch and Visions. Visions much more like What If, where it's not connected to the main Star Wars storylines, which I quite enjoyed some of the episodes, but some of them were also very very out there, very push the boundaries, which is what it was meant to be. So if that's what you're into, great. Didn't really engage me as much. 1 or 2 episodes I thought were brilliant, but overall wasn't as big a fan of Visions as I was with Bad Batch. I thought Bad Batch was great. I thought Bad Batch sort of carried on the plot from the Clone Wars and Rebels and sort of wove them together in a fresh new show. And so we got lots of characters returning from those shows. Plus we got some new characters as well to set up some really intriguing plot lines as well. So big recommend. Yeah.
I enjoyed Bad Batch as well as a Clone Wars fan. I did enjoy watching Bad Batch. I think some of the storylines, I think, again, they like to do, Star Wars TV shows like to do those single plots per episode. And some of those are like, I don't really care about this. I want to get to the overarching plot linking back to, Ahsoka and is Ahsoka in that? Yes. And Anakin and Obi-Wan, and just head back to that
She's
plot
not in
to
it.
link. She's not in it. What am I thinking of? I'm thinking
of
of
Omega.
Yes, I'm thinking of Omega. But no,
What is Ahsoka in? She was in the last season of Clone Wars.
That's what I'm thinking of. Did that come out this year?
No, that was last year.
Okay, that's what I was thinking of. We watched Bad Batch a while ago, guys.
Yeah, Bad Batch was quite early in the year. I'm trying.
I loved Omega. She was sweet. Good character. Again, I like the idea of following on with the clones and seeing what they're up to. Okay. And last Disney Plus show that we watched, and I think we both really, really enjoyed, was Only Murders in the Building. If you haven't watched this, please go and watch it. It is, it kind of mocks the criminal podcasts that are so popular at the moment. It's a bit of a parody, but done in a really great way. The cast is fantastic. Selena Gomez and Martin Short and Steve Martin are all fantastic. And it will keep you on the edge of your seat. I know the episodes were not long enough. I wanted more every week, and watching it week by week, I really got caught up in what was happening and wanting to know how it was going to end. And it's another one that's set up really nicely for season 2 as well.
Yeah, it sort of gives me vibes of How to Get Away with Murder in terms of setting up for the next season. And this was one of 2 shows I think I watched this year that really surprised me by how much I enjoyed them. I thought this was going to be a fun little comedy romp and not really take it too seriously. I think with that cast, I thought they weren't going to be too serious or too engaging in that sense, but it was actually a really good show and really heartwarming as well. I think it was episode 8 is the one I'm thinking of, with the focus on the deaf character was really good and really well done.
Oh yes.
I thought that was a really good episode as well. So huge recommend. And yeah, of all the Disney Plus shows from this year, I'd probably say that this was our favorite.
Yeah. Yes, that episode where they followed the deaf character around and the way it was done was really well. That sentence did not make sense. Again, it's New Year's Day. I've had 4 hours sleep. But yeah, the fact they even went, we're going to have an episode that's completely from the perspective of a deaf character, I think it was really unique, really stood out, and kind of, definitely made this show go into my top shows of the year list. Okay, that's it with Disney Plus. Moving on to Netflix.
Netflix, yes. Okay, well, let's get started with, how about we talk about You Season 3 first of all, as we watched the first few seasons, I think, at the start of last year to catch up, and then we watched Season 3 as it came out this year. What did you think of it?
I kind of love-hate this show. I get caught up in watching it, but will whinge the whole time. And I think that's basically what happened with Season 3. I don't know. I can't say I like this show. I hate watch it. I did like the blogger characters, Sherry and
I can't remember his name.
Yes, they were hilarious. I thought they were, again, parody kind of characters of the blogger mums out there. No offense if you are one. You will do great things. But it was also kind of predictable. Do you not think?
A little bit. It's very formulaic in that sense, but it's that sort of show, again, a bit like How to Get Away with Murder, where it sort of has those hooks at the end of each episode to keep you coming back to watch the next one. And it's a bit of a thriller show in that sense, where you kind of just watch it for what's going to happen next. And you're right, like, it's predictable in the sense we know how it's going to end up at the end of the season, but it's how you get there, which is, I guess, what gets you coming back to watch the next episode.
I mean, will we still watch Season 4 when it comes out? Yes.
Absolutely.
It hooks you in.
Okay, so then let's talk about Sex Education, also Season 3, which came out this year. And this is one of my favorite shows, which we've enjoyed since the first season. And I thought this was just another really strong season. And I think what I love about these sorts of shows is the character arcs you get, where you get characters that you initially hate, who you then end up loving. And I've forgotten her name, but the girlfriend of
Ruby.
Yes, Ruby, going through her character arc, and then to the point where you're really upset when they don't work out as a couple. Spoiler again, apologies, but really enjoyed it. Did you?
Yeah, I love Adam. It's one of those shows. Adam, it's one of those shows. Again, I like wholesome shows, and this is a wholesome show, even though it is quite raunchy and can get quite graphic and things like that. At its core, it is a really wholesome show. And I think for the younger generation, it's different to shows that we would have had when we were teenagers. And I guess a bit more positive and uplifting and accepting, rather than not alienating, but, making you think you have to be a certain way. But yes, this show, I'll be sad to see it end when it eventually ends, because obviously Netflix doesn't do
I think
long
next
runs.
season's the last season,
But I think it's a really wholesome show. And definitely recommend. If you're not watching it, go watch it.
Definitely.
All of them, all the seasons.
We also had Snowpiercer coming back for season 2, and I think that was more one that I watched than you did.
I've watched episodes here and there.
Yeah, and we've watched the movie. I think season 2 was definitely a step up on season 1. I felt like season 2 was a bit more intriguing in that sense. Sean Bean was a fantastic addition to the cast. And so I'll definitely be watching for season 3. I think it's one of those ones where you can leave it if you're not a fan of the concept from the movie, perhaps, or if you watch season 1 and struggled through it. I wouldn't say that you must, that it's a must watch for season 2. I think if you enjoyed it, you'll really enjoy season 2, and that's definitely a step up from season 1. But it's probably one of the middle ground shows from the year for me.
Yeah, I didn't watch. We watched the movie. I didn't enjoy the movie, so didn't really engage with the TV show. I do love Daveed Diggs though, so he was kind of a draw card. So I watched a few episodes. I think not necessarily sat down and watched, but watched here and there while Alex was watching. And I guess if it's a show you enjoy, it is a good show. It's not my vibe.
Yeah. We also had the final season of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which I mean, technically Netflix, we'll put it in the Netflix category because
it'll be on there.
The other seasons have been on there. What did you think of the final season?
I felt sorry for the creators of the show and those putting it on because they had the most difficult terrain to navigate with this season post everything that happened in 2020. Not only were they dealing with pandemic, but then also the sentiment towards police has greatly changed. So they really had to navigate this really narrow path. And I think that really impacted the storylines. It felt awkward. It felt awkward at times, really. So
I think there were some episodes that didn't land as well as some of the others because I think they tried to be a bit educational, maybe is the word for it.
Yeah.
Which I don't necessarily know you need in a comedy, but at the same time, it's probably still a very important message for them to give as a police comedy sitcom show. But it did then make some of the episodes feel a bit strange. It's like, am I watching a comedy or am I watching a more serious show? But there was still some great episodes. I thought the Boyle family mystery episode was fantastic. And I think the way the show ended as well was perfect ending.
Yeah, that last episode was really, really well done. And yeah, just a great finish to a great show. Like overall, it was a great show. Like, yeah, those few episodes in that last season are a bit hit and miss, but overall fantastic.
Yeah. Another show that ended this year was Lost in Space, where we got the third season. And I did like there's a little tease at the very end that maybe it hasn't finished. But as far as I'm aware, this is the final season that they've done. I actually didn't like this season as much as previous seasons. And I actually said to you while I was watching it that it felt like it was almost two seasons compressed into one because maybe the pandemic meant that they were going to do a season last year and then a final season this year and they mashed them together. I felt like the previous two seasons had much more defined arcs and sort of problems for them to overcome. This just felt like we've now got to confront the robots and defeat them. And maybe that's a clearly defined problem to overcome, but it just felt like we were jumping from settings quite a bit. It didn't feel as sort of settled as the previous two seasons. So I still enjoyed the show overall. I thought it was a great show. I've never watched the original show, but I was sort of vaguely familiar with the mythology. But definitely, first season was probably my favorite of the three.
I didn't watch this one in full. Again, caught episodes here and there while Alex was watching. I do think it's a good show. I would like to go back and maybe watch all of it one day if I find time for not watching something else. But yeah, overall, I think as a series, it was really good. It'll be interesting to see if they do bring it back.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so I think we've got two more for Netflix.
We do, and one of them is probably one that will divide opinions on this podcast. So we'll start with that one, and that was probably the biggest sort of cult smash hit of the year, Squid Game. What did you think of Squid Game, Lo?
I didn't enjoy it. I watched it all because it was, such a moment in popular culture, and I do enjoy that we are getting more diverse series coming through on Netflix from different, cultural backgrounds that we maybe normally wouldn't be exposed to on our regular viewing. But I mean, I saw the appeal. I just didn't.
Was it the violence? Is that the issue?
I didn't like the violence. I'm not overly into the violence. It's the issue I have with you as well. It's just too much blood. But I also had some issues with some of the characters. I'm always happy, and with the next show we're going to talk about, you'll say, I'm happy to root for the underdog, not the underdog, to root for a character that's not necessarily the hero or the anti-hero. But with Squid Game, I was just like, I can't find anything redeeming about these people at all.
I think for me, the issue was that the reveal at the end, and I'm not going to spoil it, just didn't feel like it was it was a deserved payoff. It didn't feel earned. There was no sort of hints or mystery along the way to suggest that twist was coming, which fair enough. You want to make it a surprise, but it just meant that it didn't feel very earned in my mind. I really liked it. I think I would definitely watch season 2, which I think is coming.
I'll probably watch it too, but
yeah, but I can understand the drawbacks for some that they would have with Squid Game. Okay, so then our final show of Netflix, and this is the other show of the year that really surprised me by how much I loved it, as well as low, I'm sure. So I'll let you talk about it first, and that was Cobra Kai.
Yes. So I think I'm not sure if Cobra Kai actually came out this year. I might have just put it on the list.
It did. It came out 1st of January.
Okay, cool.
And then we've also got season 4 that's come out on the 31st. So technically 2 seasons.
But I had read, and I've read some article at the end of last year. So when this season came out, season 3 came out, that said people are sleeping on this show. It is actually really good. Now that Netflix has picked it up, it should hopefully have a wider audience and get the praise it deserves. And I kind of went, who is watching a TV show about karate? And kind of brushed it off. And then Alex suggested we watched it, and we did, and I'm obsessed. Oh my God, I love it. I don't even know why. It's so cheesy. Again, it's wholesome.
It's
super
very
cheesy.
It's very cheesy. To me, it's actually really funny because the closest comparison I can think of for Cobra Kai is a Star Wars show. It's like you're watching a Star Wars show, but instead of it being Star Wars, it's karate. And what I mean by that is we've got a lot of characters who kind of fall to the dark side, so to speak, and join Cobra Kai, and they'll get redeemed and they'll become good again. And you have these sort of story arcs, but it's very over the top, where it's not like a Sex Education where you've got bad characters becoming good and you kind of go, oh, that's a whole complex arc. It's much more like Star Wars, where it'll be, you fall into the dark side and now you're back on the light and all of a sudden you're all good again, which is totally fine because that is what it is. And it's that 80s sort of cheese. And it's a very fun watch in that sense.
Yeah, it's a fun watch. And I said some of the storylines are completely ridiculous. And
Zabka steals the show for me.
Oh my God, I love Billy Zabka.
Yeah. He's definitely the best.
But I like Ralph Macchio as well. And I think that's part of the appeal with this. There are so many of the actors from the movies who have obviously been happily just gone, yep, I'll come on and do like a cameo. We've got so many characters that come back. You do have to watch the movies, but the movies kind of correspond with each of the seasons. So
I wouldn't say it's a must. I do have the flashbacks.
No, you don't need to.
But it definitely enhances the viewing.
Season 1 we'd watched without having seen Karate Kid. So we went and watched afterwards, watched Karate Kid 1 and 2.
Which is a very strange experience. It felt like Karate Kid then acted more as a prequel to the show rather than the other way around.
And then we watched Karate Kid 3 over the holiday break to prepare for season 4 because there are characters back from Karate Kid 3 that are back in season 4. I don't even know. I've been telling everyone to watch it, and I said it's cheesy, it's wholesome. I'm in love with Johnny Lawrence. I love him. He's such a great character. They're both. I mean, it plays into this idea that maybe Daniel LaRusso was actually the bad guy in Karate Kid. So we kind of get Johnny Lawrence, who was originally the bad guy in the first movie, and we kind of get a more sympathetic view of him. But then we also get that view of Daniel, who comes in as the villain, essentially, in this series. But then we get both characters. And I think there's a line in season 3 where they talk about there's your truth, the other person's truth, and the actual truth. And I feel like this show kind of really, we've got these two main characters who have been feuding for years. And we're actually seeing now both sides and seeing what's happening in both their lives. And then you've got all the kids as well. And I said, yeah, it's good. Watch it.
Very much recommend. Very much recommend.
So
okay, well, that's all of Netflix. So we'll move on then and talk about the Stan shows that we watched.
So Stan's an Australian streaming platform. I don't know what the equivalent would be overseas, if there is an equivalent.
I don't think there would be, because I think when you look at, there's like Doctor Who and stuff on there, which are on HBO Max.
There's a lot of BBC shows and things. Okay, so for Stan, I'm pretty sure we watched more on Stan, but we've got 2 that we want to talk about. I'm going to do Doctor Who Flux first, because that's one we watched first. We were going to do a separate review for this, but we didn't get around to it.
And we've got the New Year's Day special coming out tomorrow morning, in fact. So we'll probably do a review for that and then do a broader discussion of the season, because I believe it's all starting to tie into itself.
Yes, but Flux, yes, no.
I have to think about it, so that probably gives the answer. But I'd say yes. I think the final episode was a big letdown for me, and I'm hoping that there'll be a lot more to come over the next few episodes to make it worthwhile. But I thought that the final episode, it was a season where you had to go along for the ride and have faith that the finale would make the whole ride worth it, because you had a lot of mystery and a lot of not knowing what was going on, that you just had to kind of go, oh, well, I don't know what's going on, but I'm sure once I've seen the finale, everything will make sense in context. And I don't think it quite stuck the landing for me, which kind of diminishes from the whole season for a rewatch value.
Yeah, if you've watched or listened to our previous podcasts on reviews of Doctor Who, I don't like an overly complex plot line when it comes to Doctor Who. I think, having watched classic Who, I was really excited for this, thinking, oh, cool, we've got that 6-episode arc, which it's all the one storyline. It's going to be like classic Who, and it just wasn't. It was still overly complex. I still have so many questions. I don't know what happened in the last episode. Like, things just happened and there was no explanation for them happening. So I think, same as what you've just said, I'm really hoping that they break some things down and do some explaining in the New Year's special and the episode after that.
I think
there's 2 more episodes.
There's the New Year's special. There's presumably, I think it's an Easter special, and then I think it's the Regeneration episode.
Cool. Okay, so hopefully get some explanations there. But yeah, we might talk about that a bit more after the New Year's special. The other show that we watch, and again, it's another returning show on Stan, was The Great. And
The Great.
I think it's a very apt name for a great show. It is fantastic. This would probably be one of my top shows of the year as well.
I think this is more than most of the shows that we watched this year. This is a show I actually quite enjoyed watching as a binge.
Yeah.
Name of the podcast quite appropriately fits with that. I think watching them back to back made it quite an enjoyable experience, even though they're quite long episodes. If you have a rainy day or something like that to set aside to watch the show, I think it definitely helps, because I think watching them one at a time, it's sort of counterintuitive, because watching them one at a time, it actually makes episodes feel really long, but then somehow watching them together, it actually makes it feel much briefer. I don't know how that quite works in my mind, but it does. And I really enjoyed the season.
Yeah, we got through it quite quickly while waiting for what felt like forever for COVID test results to come back. So that gave us an excuse to actually get through the season, just shortly after it came out. And yeah, the writing for this show is fantastic. Like, it's just great writing. I know it's written by Tony McNamara, who is a Aussie, has written some plays.
Represent.
And it's really good. There's a really good balance between, I guess, some vulgarity, which is very, I think, on brand for Australia. And, creating characters that you both, you shouldn't like them, but you feel empathy for them. So again, we get that very fleshed out characters, and each of those characters who are part of the show, you do have sympathy for. Obviously, there are characters who are there who are meant to be, the funny or characters that you mock and go, oh, they're awful. But then you've got characters like Peter, who is awful, but you're rooting for him to get back with Catherine and for them to get together. And it's, just really well done. Yeah,
very much recommend. I think it's quite a fun watch.
Here it's season 3. It's actually season 2.
Season 2, yeah, indeed.
Whoops. And that's pretty much it for Stan.
I think most of what we watched on Stan this year was probably Doctor Who episodes from previous seasons. So that was the big show for us on Stan this year, which we did reviews for. So you can check out our reviews for each of the seasons of New Who. I think we got up to season 5.
Yeah.
And we may do more, but we'll see how we go.
Okay. We're getting to the end of our list, guys. So the new streaming platform that came out at the end of last year is Binge, and it's if you're an Australian viewer, it's the Foxtel streaming site, which we get a lot of our American TV shows from, because it's your like Fox 8.
It's HBO Max in America, I think, predominantly.
You get a lot of those. This is New Year's brain getting to me. What do they call them?
Showtime and stuff.
Yeah, you get Showtime and all those types of shows. Those cable channels, that's what I was looking for, that you get in America. So I think the big one this year, along with Squid Game, everyone's also asking, have you watched White Lotus? And what a trip, literally, that was.
Yeah. I think for me, I don't know how... I think it's worth a watch, but I also think there's enough annoying characters in that show for me to not necessarily want to revisit it. I think they were deliberately annoying, so it's not as if it was poorly written, but I found myself kind of struggling with it at times just because I didn't find anyone to root for, which I suppose was the point.
That was the point, 100%.
Yeah, it's the point. But I don't.
We're sitting on the floor. I'm in pain.
I don't necessarily like a show where I don't have anyone to root for. It's just a lot of annoying characters doing annoying things. Yeah.
I think you're not meant to like the characters. It's meant to be, I think, that critical look at our society and what we're becoming. I'll be interested to see what they do with season 2. Because I know that is coming at some point. So that will be good to see. I enjoyed watching it. I enjoyed having the having it start with that hook, that who's in the coffin, and then you go back and watch that week at the White Lotus to find out what's happening. Not one to watch with your parents, just a warning out there, don't watch it with your parents. But yeah, I mean, I'll be interested to see what they do with season 2. The other show that was also talked about a lot, and we didn't watch Mayor of Easttown, which I know is probably a bit of we just didn't get around to it, and I don't think it was quite neither of us really were like, yes, we want to watch that, even though we've all heard great things. We'll get to it one day.
Yeah, that's right.
But the other one was Vigil.
Yeah, Vigil, again, that's probably another one that I could take or leave. I enjoyed it for what it was, but it's not one that I sort of finished and thought, wow, that was, something that, was really worthwhile. So I think that's another one where I think, it was what it was. It was fine. It was, it was a sort of a murder mystery sort of plot. So it was a bit different speed from some of the other shows that we watched this year, which I liked, but it was just a very sort of, it was a bit of a slog at times, I found.
So I feel like you're not the type to watch a murder mystery show. Well, I am. Like, I like murder mystery shows. I grew up on Midsummer Murders. Love my Poirot and Agatha Christie. So this was, I guess, a show that I knew I would enjoy because it had that mystery element. And yeah, I did actually really enjoy it. I'd recommend watching it. It has a lot of cliffhangers. So you get to the point of at the end of it, so I was like, we need to watch the next one because there's cliffhangers. Some of the, I guess, cliffhangers or the events that happen, maybe, you could sit there and go, that would never actually happen. But it was a good watch. And it was, again, because it's set in a submarine, you had 2 plots happening at the same time. So what was happening on land and what was happening in the submarine. So that kind of gave you, I guess, some variety within the show. It wasn't just all set underwater.
And it was a very good cast.
Yeah. Great cast. Yes. Okay, so this is your favorite show. Succession, season 3.
Yeah, Succession. So I watched the first 2 seasons of this earlier this year in anticipation for season 3. Really enjoying it, and it's clearly picking up a lot of steam as one of the most talked about, most watched shows on television at the moment. I don't know if I'd call it television, streaming services at the moment. Fantastic cast. Another really good season. My only sort of drawback with the show, I'm really curious to see what happens in season 4, which I hope is in a slightly different direction from what we've got so far in the previous 3 seasons, because we are starting to go around in circles of the same plot of Kendall trying to overthrow his father in their business. So it'll be interesting for season 4 to see what happens. I think season 3 left things in a really interesting place, really intrigued for what comes next. Brilliantly cast, brilliantly written. And if you haven't watched it yet, fully recommend watching the whole thing.
Yeah. So I haven't watched season 1 and 2. Again, watch episodes here and there, but I watched most of season 3. And I'm so keen to go back and watch the first 2 seasons. I think that cliffhanger at the end of season 3 was great. It'll be interesting to see what's to come. I think it's not one of those shows where none of these characters are really likable, yet you're rooting for the anti-heroes.
Yes. I think the distinction for me with this compared to White Lotus is I find the humor in this a lot more engaging. So there's humor
really
in
well
White
done.
Lotus, but I think when there's characters that you don't like, at least they are unlikable in a funny way, an enjoyable way, I think is how I distinguish.
Good show to recommend. And I'll be watching season 1 and 2 shortly. And then Alex's other favourite show, Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah, it's another show that I sort of caught up with over the course of this year through our 6-month lockdown. Really enjoyable, really good show for me. I think the interesting thing for me is having watched it all together just about. I find that if you've watched it over the course of the 20-something years that it's been running, you're probably coming at it from a slightly different perspective in terms of whether it's still the same quality that it was at the start. For me, I think it's just as good as ever. I think the plot this season was really brilliantly written, really funny, and had a really satisfying conclusion as well. So I'd actually even say this is probably a better season than the last couple that we've got. So fully recommend this one as well. Definitely check it out.
Yeah, poor Alex, he starts watching all these shows and then I get roped in and I'm like, you can't watch it without me. So again, Curb, I think I missed season 1 or only saw episodes here and there, but then watched most of the rest of it with you. Not all of it though. Watched all of season 11.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it. Again, it was one that I think originally I was hate watching with you because there's so many awkward moments in that show that I just feel physically, I think I'm cringing and I just can't watch what's happening. But it is good. I do wish, when we watched it, I sit there and go, I wish our friends were as brutally honest with each other as these guys are. But yeah, it's an interesting show. Definitely, I think very niche. You're either going to love it or you hate it.
Yeah. Well, I guess then we'll do, maybe it's the last show, we can talk about Wheel of Time on Amazon.
Yes.
Amazon Prime, Wheel of Time. I think it's the only new show that we've watched on Amazon Prime this year. We're still actually watching it. We haven't watched the last 2 episodes.
Yeah, so no spoilers.
Which I've heard mixed things about the final episode. And we also haven't read the books, so we're coming at it quite fresh.
Yeah.
I can't help shake the comparisons to Game of Thrones because I know the context in which it was created. So I'm finding it a bit...
it's different though.
More simplistic than Game of Thrones is probably how I'd put it. The complexities of relationships in Game of Thrones aren't quite there in this yet, but maybe they will come with time. I'm
enjoying it. I think it's something you do have to watch. Like, it's good that they dropped all the episodes all at once because you can watch more than one episode at a time. I think you need to.
They actually cannot wait.
Sugar, really?
Yeah, that's all right.
Okay then. If you were watching it week by week, I hope you didn't get lost with what's happening because I know we've found, again, while we were waiting for COVID test results, it was really good to be able to watch episodes back to back because you had that follow through the storyline. So I think you were watching it week to week. I would be like, I just trying to learn names and things like that. I'm really keen to watch the last 2 episodes, enjoying it so far. I was missing a good fantasy show in what we're watching, so it's great. There's one more show I'd really like to mention.
Okay.
And that was Starstruck. So it was aired on ABC here, ABC iVIEW. I don't know if you can get that overseas, but I don't know where it aired originally. It was obviously a British show.
Yes, I mean, probably on BBC. I would have thought.
That was on BBC or ITV.
Yeah. I think if it's on iVIEW, it would have been BBC.
Yeah,
not too sure.
It is 5 episodes, 6 episodes.
6, I think.
And they're only about 20-minute, 25-minute episodes. Kind of tracks through the seasons, through the main character's life. She's Kiwi, and it's just again, I like wholesome shows. It was just not only wholesome, it was just really beautifully shot, and the writing was beautiful, and you really felt for these characters.
Very authentic characters.
It was real. It was real, even in a scenario that doesn't seem real. Like, running off with a movie star, like it felt real, and those emotions felt real, and it was all very believable and just lovely. And it was a beautiful look at like being an expat in London as well, I think. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it. And particularly, like, we watched it during lockdown when we can't, like, we still aren't, as much as travel, we want travel to be on the cards. It was really nice to watch a show that was just set in like central London. Pretty sure one of the pubs they filmed, and I was like, I've been there. I miss England.
And then one final show, actually, just to touch on before
Yeah.
we go, is Ted Lasso season 2, which we've
yeah.
just started to watch.
Like 3 episodes in.
Probably vibes so far. I have heard that it gets better over the course of the season. I think my vibe so far is that it's just not quite as good as season 1. It just doesn't hit quite in the same way as season 1, which
It's too aware of itself.
Yeah, it's very aware of itself. So we'll be very interested to see how that show develops over the course of the season.
Yes. Okay. Do you have anything else to add? Top shows of the year?
So top shows of the year for me, I would say number 1, Cobra Kai. Number 2, what was the other one that I said I really liked? Disney Plus, Only Murders in the Building. Was probably my other top show for the year in terms of new shows to watch. And I guess to round it out, Sex Education was probably my other real enjoyment for the year.
Yeah, I had Cobra Kai, of course. I love that show. Again, telling everyone to watch it. Cobra Kai, Sex Education, because that was just great as well. And The Great season 2, I really, really enjoyed that. And I said Starstruck will probably get a special mention. It's a quick watch, really beautiful. Do recommend. I also recommend all the Real Housewives because that's what's got me through lockdown, particularly Salt Lake City if you haven't watched that.
Okay, but otherwise, thanks everyone for watching along for our review of the year. Let us know in the comments below what your favorite shows of the year were, what shows that we might have missed talking about that you really enjoyed.
Yes.
And yeah, subscribe, like the video, please. Subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for our review of the Doctor Who New Year's Day special tomorrow. And also the review of our first episode of Book of Boba Fett, which we released yesterday, I think it was, or the day before. But otherwise,
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.